Welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR and Sirius XM Channel 141. This is the Insight segment. I'm Harold Fisher. For the past week, we have tried to have discussions that reflect the mood of the season or would be helpful for this holiday season. For example, last week we had a candid conversation with Black men as they discussed how they handle grief during this season. We even spoke about how to raise grateful, thankful children earlier this month. Well, on this Christmas Eve, we're having a conversation about hope, Hope. It is an appropriate topic for the day and as we move into the end of 2025. Tonight, my guest is Reverend Dr. Jasmine Shulark of the Victory Grace Center in Bowie, Maryland. Now, this is a faith conversation, but it is so much more. We hope that you will take something away from it. Dr. Jazz, how are you? Good to see you again.
Hey, Hal, it's a Victory Day. Thanks for having me.
I want to ask you about that four-letter word, hope. When you think about it, what does it mean for you?
Yeah, hope is so loaded, and so many people are in need of hope in this season. And I think, in actuality, thank God, Christmas came at the right time. you know, Christmas, Christmas is at the end of the year. Because sometimes people run out of gas. They don't want to get up. The year didn't turn out the way they had planned or anticipated. Some people might have feel like quitting or walking away or, throwing in the towel. And so when I think about hope sometimes is what I call quiet strength. It's the reminder that no matter what you've been through in 2025, you're still here, you're still standing. And because of that, you have something to look forward to.
It's interesting you should say that because for a lot of people, particularly, Black people, in our area, 2025 was not necessarily a good year. We've had people who have lost their federal government jobs, and I'm sure there are some of those folks in your congregation, and I'm sure a lot of them are still looking. How do you encourage someone when their life has been turned upside down this year to know that there is hope?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. So many people, African American, was affected in such negative way in 2025. I know I've spoken to so many people who even that wasn't even looking forward to the Christmas season, wanted to bypass Christmas because the year was just crazy, emotional, physically, mental. I know a young man at my church who was out of work because he worked for the government for 50 days and, was trying to keep his kids in college, keep a roof over his head, the whole 9 yards. And here's a couple of things that I share with them, and that is hope does not mean everything is fine. But hope is not everything is fine. That would be living in la la land. But what it is hope says that God is still God, even in difficult situations. So does not mean everything is fine, that the dog is barking right, the cat is meowing right, the government is going to do right. No, but hope tells you and I that God is still God. And one of my favorite scriptures as a pastor is Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, who are called according to his purpose. It doesn't mean what we went through was good, but for some strange reason, Harold, I believe it's going to work together for our good. And that's what the greatest hope is about, that this place that I'm at, physically, emotionally, financially, mentally, it's not my destiny. It was difficult. This is what I told somebody the other day. I said, I was disappointed, but I wasn't devastated.
Are being thankful and being hopeful in your mind the same thing, or are they two sides of the same coin? Can you be hopeful without being thankful, or thankful without being hopeful.
Yeah, I think they both are in the same bed because the more thankful you are, the more grateful you are, the more hopeful you become. I think they're both in the same bed. I had some health challenges, like you and I talked about, family members who've had some health challenges, but at the end of the day, they're still here. They're still here. They are alive. They're above ground. So we are grateful. And the more we're grateful, the more we're thankful. We're hopeful that they are going to even grow stronger physically, emotionally, and mentally. So I always tell people, and if I have to choose one between being hopeful and being thankful, if I only have one to put in my car, I'm putting thankful, because I think gratitude does something to you when you're grateful for the little things, for the least things. It just moves you into thinking about the future and not just having a pity party of all the stuff that you might have lost or gone through. Not making light of any of that. But
Right.
if you are above ground in this Christmas season and you are in your right mind and you just have a portion of health and got a roof over your head and clothes on your back, as the old preacher said, listen, because of all the things we've been through this year, I am so thankful. But I'm also hopeful because I know this is not the end of the story. It's the end of a year, but it's not the end of the story.
Is it difficult for you as the leader of your flock to remain upbeat in hopefulness when you know that there are 1, 2, 12, or 100 people in your congregation who are really struggling with the hopefulness, really struggling with not knowing what's going to happen 1 minute to the next? I mean, yes, you're an amazing preacher, teacher, but you're still a human being. And I'm sure that there are times when, as you said earlier, sometimes you run out of the gas.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't talked all year, so I this year I had to be more hopeful, not just for my congregation individually, but for my church and all. So, I started my church 10 years ago, Victory
Hmm.
Day. And in the 10 years, I have moved 5 different places. Before we came on, you asked me, are you still in Bladensburg? I said, no,
Right.
because I started off in Bladensburg, then I went to Springdale, then the pandemic hit and I had to go COVID or go Zoom or virtual. Then after COVID, I came out and then I went to Bowie. And at the beginning of this year, man, on the first Sunday of 2025, we've signed a deal with another church that we were going to go in this building, partner with them. I announced it the first Sunday of 2025. I said, God did it. God did it. We shouted. You know how we do it. Praise God over it. On Monday, the deal fell through.
Oh my gracious.
And from the first month of January of 2025, our church had to go back completely virtual. And I tried to buy this building on the market for 2.5 million. I offered them 2.3, and somebody came in and offered them 2.4 million cash.
Hmm.
So as of today, December the 24th, we still don't have a building. Are you hearing what I'm saying? And
I
I
do.
lost hope, but I still believe God, and I still believe that one day we are going to have a place called Victory for the people of Victory. So when you ask me about hope and talking about this topic, I know what it is because it's like the 11th hour, it's the 9th hour. And we plan to have this building this year. Well, it's December 24th. It's only 2 more weeks to go. Now, God
Right.
can do it in 2 weeks, but it may not happen in 2 weeks. But we're going into 26, still hopeful that it's going to happen. And how do I know? Because number one, that's what God promised us, a place called Victory. But secondly, we're doing everything we can on our end to make sure that that dream becomes a reality. So what I always tell people is, though the vision or the dream is delayed, it cannot be denied. And so while you may have had some setbacks, some delayed, some disappointment in 25. Eventually, if you keep on staying, and I'm from Trinidad, so I was denied a visa 7 times before I got a visa. So it's very hard for me to lose hope when you come from a country that you tried 7 times to come to America and you were denied and denied, and then you finally got it. So I think I'm like a hope doctor. It's very it's very rare that I lose hope because I know at the end God will be God and it's going to happen.
It's so funny you mentioned being from Trinidad. I was going to ask you about that later, because let's just be honest. I know you're from Trinidad, and if anybody had any question, they just need to listen to your voice and to your accent. But I'm saying, good Lord, I hope they don't come and get Dr. Jazz. What are we going to do?
Yeah, thank God I got, I have dual citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
But I know some people who that's how they, that was their fear for the entire year about, what will happen if, they're separated from their family. And of course, Trinidad is 15 miles from Venezuela, and we've got a whole bunch of stuff going on down there between Venezuela, Trinidad, and America. And when I talk to my family in Trinidad, they're nervous about it. But again, we're hopeful that this too will pass. Your mom is 80 something years. You've heard this statement over and over again. This too will pass. And that's really what you have to say to yourself in the most difficult, trying time. This too, it's going to pass. Now, I can't tell you when it's going to pass, how long it's going to take before it passes, but this storm is going to pass over eventually.
A lot of people who know you that you, one of the things that is part of your personality is dancing. You can go on social media, and when you are celebrating a member of your congregation's birthday, or if they're getting out of the hospital after a long illness, or some of the things that your church is doing in the community, you lead with a festive, happy dance. Where does that feeling come from?
Yeah, and of course, Trinidad is known for carnival. It's known for dancing.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had happy feet. If I stop dancing, then I've lost hope. It's really my own personal. There's a scripture years ago, because my first book is called Dancing with Broken Bones.
Yes.
And it's taken from the scripture, allow me to hear joy and gladness that the bones that you have broken may dance again. And my story with all the brokenness in my life. Number one, not knowing who my father is. My mom died when I was at the age of 12. I was raped and molested on the island of Trinidad and Tobago by a family member, by a stranger. Then I came to this country. I got married, thought the marriage was going to last happily ever after. And after 4 years, the brother not just divorced me, but listen, and I had preached at New Psalmist that weekend. The New Psalmist Missionary Baptist Church, Dr. Walter Scott Thomas.
Up here in Baltimore.
Yeah, I was living in Columbus, Ohio at that time, and I flew back home. I was so excited. My first major preaching engagement, and my key would not work. The brother changed all the locks. All of my stuff is out on the lawn. He didn't just divorce. Everything was out on the lawn. So I had a choice. Chuck Swindoll said life consists of 5% of what happened to you and 95% how you respond. I can be a victim or I can be victorious. And I think it might have come from my mother, my sister. It might be in the water. It might come from the DNA. But I just believe that I can take a lemon and make lemonade. I just believe I can. If you throw me a bad hand, I'm still going to come out with a full house. If you throw a curved ball, I'm still going to hit a home run. So I've always been optimistic. I think people in the island from small villages had to be. If not, you would just lose your mind and you wouldn't want to wake up in the morning. And so that's where that came from. And I realized that some people can hear a sermon and some people need to see a sermon. And so the dancing is them seeing a sermon more than hearing it, and let them feel the energy and the presence of joy. Because, Jasmine, the Jane, my name is Joyful. And so I like to bring joy when I'm around people. I like to lift people in that regard. So that's where it really comes from.
Hold on, Dr. Jazz. We're going to take a very short break, but don't forget, you can hear this in every edition of the Daily Drum Insight segment via podcast on WHUR.com. The original Quiet Storm with Raheem Devon is next on WHUR. This conversation continues on Sirius XM channel 141 in just a few seconds. Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. We are continuing our conversation about hope during this holiday season. What is it? What does it feel like to you? Where can you find a sense of hope? My guest is the Reverend Dr. Jasmine Shulark of the Victory Grace Center in Bowie, Maryland. Dr. Jazz, when you just kind of went through a laundry list of things that, for some people, they would not have been able to survive. And I don't mean that in the literal sense of life and death, but I mean in the spiritual sense of darkness versus light. And again, when you think back of all of those things, the bad marriage is one thing, but all of the things that happened to you in your development as a woman, as a spiritual person, why are you still in a space of spiritual hope and positivity?
Yeah, well, it's so many ways I can answer it. I'm in this space because, Jesus, who I trust in, says that in this life, you're going to have some cry sometime. There's going to be some ups and downs, some mountains and valleys. Life is not all about mountains and mountains. It's mountains and valleys. It's ups and downs. And you know too well that old song from the African American church, I've had some good days.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had some sleepless nights. I've had some hills to climb. But when I look over the summary of my life, in spite of all of those things that has happened, the good has outweighed the bad.
I was thinking about something that happened. This actually happened to me last month. It was a simple thing, and that's one of the things that I want you to talk about in a bit, about the little things. I went to the grocery store, and I love to cook, and I went to the grocery store, and groceries are so high now, and but I had a basket full of stuff, and I paid for it, and even though I have a list, I just paid for it. I didn't look at the bill. And I brought it home, and I am putting these groceries away. And in this cabinet, I don't have a huge refrigerator. I don't have a huge kitchen, but the cabinet where I put some of the dry goods. And I was remembering trying to fit all of these things in the cabinet. And when I shut the cabinet popped out, and some bread and some other things fell on the counter. And nothing broke, but I stood there for a moment, and I was just looking at it, and it all of a sudden hit me that I had a flashback to a time when the cupboard was bare, and that time was, real early in my, TV career. It was some 40 years ago or so. And yet I remembered it like it was yesterday. And I had to take a moment to be thankful. And that's kind of goes back to the piece that I was talking about, the thankful and hopeful, because I remember the day that the cupboard was bare, and I was worried, but I also had faith and I had hope and belief that down the road, this wasn't going to happen again.
Right.
I trusted that my own faith was going to carry me, that my own strength, and of course certainly my belief in myself that this ain't gonna happen again.
Right.
And it's a little thing.
Yeah.
And in this, I would say that in this time where we have all of this social media and people are flossing and flexing and taking these wonderful luxury trips and the like, and not a hater, happy for them. But right in this space on this Christmas Eve, it is really the little things that are so important.
Yeah. Keeping them. I told my church, and I told you I'm on vacation with twins, Cam and Chloe. They 11 years of age, and I told my church, and I did something on Facebook, YouTube a couple of days ago. Keep the main thing the main thing. That this Christmas season, let's keep the main thing the main thing. And what's the main thing? Christmas is about celebration of the birth of our Savior, who represent hope. What's the main thing? The main thing. It's family. After your faith, it's your family. What's the main thing? The main thing. Your friends. What's the main thing? The main thing is that you're celebrating the fact that you made it through another year. So you may not have everything you want under the Christmas tree. You may not be flexing on social media. You may not have all the things that you see others. But if you keep the main thing, the main thing. And I think that was a big thing for us to do this year, because there was so many distraction pulling from everywhere. But when we keep the main thing, and the mere fact that you remember that story about, when you didn't have food, I think about the fact when I got my visa and I went back into my village and I told them I finally got a visa, how those people in my village put together $32. I came to this country with $32, not 32,000, not 3,200. And I got my first job and I made like $400 and something washing dishes. I went to the bank and they said, "How do you want it?" I said, "All ones." I got that $400 in all ones. I called back to Trinidad and I told them, this is how naive I was. I said, "I made it. I'm a millionaire." They said, "How much money you have?" I said, "I have $400. I thought, and so when you think about it, and what I told somebody is I started with $32 from some people in my village who never came to this country. But the moment they gave me $32, I've never been back to just having $32. $32 was my starting. It wasn't my ceiling. And so I celebrate the story that you just shared in regards to that. And I think if people keep the main thing, and celebrate the little things in life and the little things this season, then hope will bubble up inside of them.
What do you believe is our responsibility and our hopefulness to the people who don't seem to have it?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a loaded question, because there's so many people. I've just been, I don't know if you've been around listening to people this couple of days or weeks. A lot of people is not feeling.
Oh yeah.
The Christmassy. Are you sensing that?
Yeah, I have spoken to a lot of my friends. Yes, they are looking forward to the Christmas season being over, which would suggest to me that some of us are forgetting about, as they say, the reason for the season.
Mhm.
But go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say what I've said to people that when you're around folks who don't feel it, then now you have to feel it for them. So here's what I say is number one, be present and not preachly. Just be present. The greatest gift you can give somebody is what those guys give to Job. They just sat with him. And they don't have to explain it. They don't have to justify anything. They don't have to try to speak on behalf of God. You know, when I spoke to a lady the other day, she said, I'm not feeling it. I said, okay, it's okay not to feel it. It's okay.
Mm.
There's nothing wrong with you not feeling it. You may have good reason. There's a lot of people who buried a lot of loved ones this year. This is their first year without a loved one. And it's the most difficult time. They're just not feeling it. There's a lot of people who recovering after losing a job, getting laid off, a sickness, whatever. They're just not feeling it. So I always say be present. Just be there for them. The second thing I always tell people is you have to be the carrier of hope. You know, when the guy who couldn't carry himself to Jesus, 4 friends picked him up and carried him. And some of them, you now have to be in the season where you carrying those people until they can carry their own selves. You know, I have those kinds of people. I have some friends and some family around you who just, they pick me up to it. They will pick you up. They will encourage you. And I've met a lot of single people in the last couple of months. This has been trying month for them. They feel lonely. They feel sad. So I always tell them, here's a couple of things. Make sure you plan what kind of holiday you're going to have. Don't let television or social media plan it for you. So hell, you know what my key thing is? I always around the people that is joyful. I'm always in places that makes me joyful, and I'm always doing things that make me joyful during the season. If I find the right place, if I'm playing golf, if I'm connecting with the right people, my energy is all the way up. So I encourage them in regards to that. And then the third thing I would say, don't forget, Christmas is just one day.
Mm.
It's just one day. Advent is a season, and season comes and season go. And journaling and just being transparent. I'm just not feeling it. And those of us who hear it have to say, I can understand that, but still come over. Come, let me have a hug. Let me hug you. Come over. Let's still eat together. And that's what I encourage people to do.
I got a surprise yesterday.
Mm.
2 in 1. A heartbreaking, unpleasant surprise, and then an hour later, related to the first, a pleasant surprise. I learned that one of my fraternity brothers, whom I met when I was in undergrad school, and he was the chairman of the Department of Social Work at Morgan State, where I went to school, passed away. We were uh, as tight as a lid on a jelly jar,
Mm.
just close from way back when, and somebody who was very, very well loved and loving, 20 years older than me. And I found out that he had passed away in a text. He passed away on Monday. I found out Tuesday.
Mm.
And I had to sit with that. I really had to, to sit with that, because as you know, when people pass away that we love, we care about, the flood of memories, the flood of emotion,
Mm-hmm.
was pretty intense. Then I called his son, his oldest son, who's also one of our frat brothers, whom I knew and know very, very well.
Mhm.
who had, it was 24 hours ago, he had lost his father, somebody he was very close to. This was the pleasant surprise
Mm.
that, and we talked for a long, long time, and he was doing all of the talking. And one of the things that really touched and surprised me was his expression of gratitude for his father's life.
Mhm.
Now, we see, when the obituary at the funeral, we talk about the celebration of life, and that's what we do. But the conversation that I had with him was joyful, was thankful, was hopeful. He said, "Yes, I'm sad that I've lost my father, but everything that he said was so positive."
Mhm.
And I think that was the thing that was particularly surprising for me, because I've known him since undergrad school as well. So when you think about this season, and this season 2025, has there been anything that has surprised you in a positive way? Anything that has been unexpected?
Um, mm, I think what has surprised me is how easily so many people, and I don't mean to downplay, but
No, that's fine. I mean, whatever it is.
yeah, have just thrown in the towel.
Mm.
Yeah, a lot of people are exhausted physically, emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. They've checked out. They're here, but they're really not here. I've seen it, a shell of a person, and what it is, um, we worked so hard to survive COVID, and we haven't had a chance to breathe. It's like life fatigue.
Mm.
Fatigue. People are just, it's so many things that's coming. It's like in a football game, it's just coming, coming, coming. It's a boxing match, it's jab, jab, and you're just not able to catch your breath. I think that's a big surprise to me. A second thing is, on the other hand, is to see this young generation that is so creative, so innovative, so reckless, so radical, so, oh my
Yes.
gosh, they are who I mean, they taking the world by storm. So it's like you're two different spectrum, because the people who I see who are giving up easily is people who are older in age. Uh, I've read an article a couple of weeks ago. More older people are choosing to remain single by themselves,
Mhm.
alone. And yet you have these 20-year-old, these 30-year-olds. That's why I like to be around them, because they believe they can conquer every mountain, climb every climb every hill. And so those are the things that has surprised me. Now the political climate, that is a way we don't even have time to talk about the many surprises in regards to that. So those are the two things that have surprised me this year.
Let's talk a little bit in these last 5 or so minutes about hope in action, and renewing and refreshing. Uh, what acts of kindness, whether giving, can help people renew a sense of hope and purpose?
Yeah, so we have, I'm helping my sister raise twins. They're 11. And every birthday and every Christmas, one of the key things, as simple as it is, one of the things that we instill in them is, before we can give you anything, you have to go in your bedroom and pack up everything that you haven't worn this year. And you put it in a bag, making sure it's still decent. And we give it to somebody who is less fortunate than us.
Mhm.
That little exercise That little exercise, taking them to provide food in downtown DC to the homeless people, those little exercise, I think it just takes hope on a whole nother level because you realize where you've been. So I think acts of kindness in whatever regards, whether it is attention, whether it's affection, whether it's gifts, whether it's spending time with somebody, any one of those things makes a difference. I've sat with a 80 something year old, a 90 something year old, and to hear their story and reminisce. Oh my gosh. I said, I don't know how they made it back then. I definitely wouldn't have made it back then. And their life journey and their life story. So those little things makes a difference, and it helps to instill even a greater hope in you. So I always tell people, whenever you are feeling sad, remember there's somebody who's worse off than you. And if you just raise your head a little and you provide some form of service to somebody else, it makes a difference. I think about people in the island of Trinidad. You hear the song, right, Harold? It's the most wonderful time of the year. And Christmas is never have been my most wonderful time of the year, because Christmas had been traumatic in my family. There was no gifts. We were poor. I mean, we just glad to just wake up in the morning. No Christmas tree, no gifts, no nothing like that. So Christmas is not a big thing. It's not the most wonderful time of the year for me, but I get to do it for Cam and Chloe. I get to do it for some other people. Our church give out, like most churches, give out gifts for Christmas, and the line was wrapped around our building. All of those things that's what Christmas really means. And I think it just, when you see a little kid who just lights up and say, thank you, you're like, wow, I made a difference. And that's the summary of life, is making a difference for somebody else.
How do you stay grounded and passing on that spirit of hope this time of the year when, as you just said, you met so many people who've thrown in the towel, who have given up? Obviously, that's a mental health piece. It's a mental health piece. It's a spiritual faith piece. But again, you don't run out of gas because you want to be able to give back to those people who, at least in some way, shape, or form, feel lost.
Yeah. And just like I'm hope to somebody, somebody's hope to me. So I think is, the circle of life is making sure that you're not just pouring out, but somebody else is pouring in you. And you find places where you are encouraged, where you are being fed. Some people need you and some people feed you. And my church need me, but
Yeah.
my church doesn't feed me. So I'm in a circle of a group of pastors and preachers and colleagues that when I leave them, I feel like running through a troop and leap over a wall. I feel a strength that bursts. So it's balancing the people who need you and the people who feed you. And you can't just be around people who need you, because they will drain you. And so I tend to balance it off with the people who need me and the people who feed me. And every month I'm around people who need me, and I'm also around people who feed me. My pastor is Pastor John K. Jenkins, First Baptist Church of Glen Hart. I mean, I just love being around him, and he feeds me. Bishop T.D. Jakes, my mentor. I'm around people who feeds me because I have a lot of people who need me.
Yeah. And that is why, number one, we are having this conversation, on the Daily Drum. The Daily Drum is news, information, and community. But every now and then, I think, considering who our listeners are, whether they are in the DMV, whether they are listening on the other side of the world and on Sirius XM, I've always been surprised that sometimes we hear from people who are stationed on the other side of the world, who are folks from the DMV, and they are still listening. And that certainly is a blessing, not only for this program, but also for the radio station. But it is important for us to have, I think, these conversations when they are appropriate, when people are feeling empty, when people are feeling a sense of hollowness. But the second reason is, of course, you've been on this program many, many times, and I know that you have the high test gasoline to to have this conversation that I hope will be helpful to someone who may, if they haven't given up, if they haven't thrown in the towel, maybe looking there, maybe looking at the towel and trying to figure out, do I throw in the towel or do I just hang it up and let it dry to be used tomorrow? I'm almost done. Any final thoughts from you for our listeners during this holiday season, not just Christmas, but leading into the new year?
Yeah, and first I want to say to those who may feel hopeless, it's okay to stop, just don't stay there. It's okay to stop. It's okay to slow down. That's a grace and a gift from God. You have to know when to stop and when to slow down. Just don't stay there. That's the first thing. And then the second thing, to those who are getting ready to step into 2026, and there's so much uncertainty in the world, personally, politically, there's so many things that is going on. And what I always say is, when I want to have hope in the future, I look back over the past. And the mere fact that you are here and still here, in spite of all the stuff that has been thrown at you, including the kitchen sink, everything that you can imagine. And so keep hope, hold on to your hope, don't lose your hope, and know that hope is not emotional. Hope is not a feeling. Hope doesn't mean that everything is all right. It simply means God is still God and you're still you.
I want to thank you, Reverend Dr. Jasmine Shulark, for coming on and spending some really good quality time. It's good to see you, sis. Also, you haven't.
And listen, I'm hoping that one day I get to eat your home cooked meal.
Right. Listen, I 2026. 2026, I'm going to make it happen. You've been asking me that for years. I'm going to make it happen. And I like to be a man of my word. I will keep that promise. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bless you.
That is the Daily Drum for this Wednesday, December 24th, Christmas Eve. I'm Harold Fisher. This is the last time you're going to hear from me until next year. I hope that you will be hopeful and at peace. Merry Christmas. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy New Year. Good night.